But let's start off with the news with the ElseNerds ElseNews for this week. And the first one, I think I picked all three of the stories, but I didn't see any objections for this. But Thor Ragnarok director Taika Waititi confirms the Planet Hulk location. So Planet Hulk, I'm going to say this right off the bat. This looks like this is the closest we are ever going to get to Hulk solo films. Is taking Hulk storylines and interweaving them in with other Marvel characters.
Yeah,
Because
because Universal owns the rights for distribution for Hulk films primarily, and while it's okay to use Hulk in these other movies and Avengers and so forth, the idea of Marvel putting a Hulk movie out, plus honestly, the Hulk movies haven't had huge successes in the couple that have come out, although one of them is just whack anyway.
yeah,
It makes a certain degree of sense. Plus, we're at a point where these characters, we wonder why they're not with each other at times. When Iron Man 3 came out after the first Avengers movie, it's like, well, why aren't we seeing Cap and the other characters show up for this? And when Cap's running around fighting things like the Winter Soldier, it's like, well, why aren't you calling on some of your other friends who could be involved in this at this point in time? And it's not too much of a stretch because it's the same way it is in the comics. It's like you're not going to get everybody together all at the same time, or they might be having their own missions. But right now, yeah, let's involve Hulk in a Thor story because it's going to up the potential of a Thor movie, anyways. Because there's another one that's not like the top of the heap when it comes to how these films perform. Although I've enjoyed both Thor movies, this one sounds more exciting, and it's kind of hard to picture how we do Planet Hulk otherwise.
yeah. So to give a little bit of background, this year's Comic-Con, they had Marvel unveiled props from Thor Ragnarok. And one of them was the Gladiator Hulk armor pieces. At least confirming that a portion of the storyline would be an infusion of Planet Hulk. And now Taika Waititi talking said in the latest issue of Total Film that is it Sakaar? Is that how you say the planet name?
I'm not hugely familiar with the storyline, but that sounds right to me.
Yeah, Sakaar. Well, I do know the storyline was written by Greg Pak. It was his first comic book writing project was Planet Hulk.
Hmm.
Um, but the but it will be featured is in the film. Sakaar was just an insane, far off, futuristic place, which was the biggest shift for the films and these characters. This is all Taika Waititi, a quote from him. I was really excited when Kevin Feige and the rest of Marvel jumped on board with the idea to use Jack Kirby as a big influence in the design of the film. What's really hard is staying authentic. And
yeah, and something to keep in mind is that what this does is it gives us an otherworldly thing that we haven't already seen, and Thor's been doing that more because all of his stuff does take place off planet. So with the first Thor film, we got to see Asgard in relation to Earth, and the second film we got to see the planet where the Dark Elves are from, but it was just dark, man. It was just dark desert like place. It wasn't terribly exciting. So this gives us something that maybe is a little bit more upping the game and introduces us to a lot of other characters. Like one of the questions it's got to be, how did Hulk get off planet and why is he on this other world and why is he competing as a gladiator here? Spelling that out is going to be a lot of the fun of the film.
Yeah, it's one of those things like, and I don't know anything of the story. I can only guess, but if you look at how Planet Hulk went, Hulk finds himself on Sakaar when it was ruled by a corrupt empire led by the Red King, whose forces subsequently captured Hulk and made him into a gladiator for the Imperial armies. And this happened because SHIELD had a plan to shoot Hulk off into space to a lush, uninhabited planet, but his ship got sucked into a wormhole. And if you remember
Yeah,
the last time we Yeah, remember last time we saw the Hulk on in a Marvel movie, he was flying a plane, heading off into the sunset. All we need is just thwomp, wormhole, and
Now,
it to be
let's be honest though, because one of the things that's very different is that in that scene, Hulk was going into self exile. In the original storyline that led to Planet Hulk, Hulk had been kicked off the planet not by Shield, but by the Illuminati, by
yes,
his friends, Reed Richards, Tony Stark, Black Bolt. I think was part of the group. Namor. So
yeah,
it was a bunch of people that were like,
Professor
"Hey,
Xavier.
we can't trust you here anymore. We have to send you off world. We have to get you out of here." And they tried to send him to a good place. And all these really smart people in the room done fucked up because they didn't keep track of him. And then he came back really pissed off. So this would be a little bit different from Planet Hulk, where it leads to World War Hulk later. But it's also it's making storylines for Thor. Thor Ragnarok is another Marvel storyline that if you're using the name, I have to assume they're going to use some sort of elements from the original story. Although Marvel likes to change things up a lot when they take the storylines and bring them to the films.
Yeah. The other part I will add to where I think how we're going to get it is with the additional casting that we have here. So you have Jeff Goldblum as the Grand Master, who is the brother to the Collector, and is known for doing the being involved in the Contest of Champions.
Yeah.
So I could see that being how we get Hulk on Sakaar and all that. And we got Kate Blanchett as Hela, Carl Urban as Scourge, Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie. All these being joined by Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, Anthony Hopkins, and Idris Elba. And also, if you watched Doctor Strange, maybe we get a little bit of Benedict Cumberbatch. I mean, get all the Cumber bitches and what are the Tom Hiddleston ones? The Tom Hiddleston fans swooning over the same movie. We get a new Team Jacob, Team Edward thing here, but it's for the actors.
I mean, there's no short of pretty in the Marvel films. There's a lot of nice things to look at in those. A lot of man meat is what I'm saying. A lot of pretty men. Few named Chris.
Yeah.
Just varies out. So it should be with the additions of both cast and characters and everything else kind of involved in this. It sounds like a very exciting film. It sounds like the first Thor film where I'm like, just hearing about it, I'm really into the idea of it. Whereas the other Thor films, it's like, well, let's see what they do with this. This is like, shit, I'm way on board for it. So it should be pretty great. And this is coming out this year?
This comes out November 3rd, 2017.
Yep. So that's great. This coming year
Yes.
is what I meant.
Yeah.
I'm ready for 2016 to be done, man.
Yeah. Fuck you, 2016. And our next story is Chris Meloni will star in the Syfy pilot Happy. Chris Meloni, you might know him from the Law and Order SVU, and oh gosh, he was in some other things that I cannot think of right now.
He was Freak Show in Harold and Kumar. He was the best part of Harold and Kumar, and an excellent movie overall. But Freak Show is probably my favorite part of that, and that's realizing that Neil Patrick Harris had a big resurgence because of that movie.
Yeah. But he is set to star as the male lead in the Syfy pilot Happy, which is based on Grant Morrison and Derek Robertson's graphic novel. And I read the premise of this, and basically Meloni will play a character named Nick Sachs, once a rock star detective for a major metropolitan police force. Nick loses it all. Now he's a broken down and out hired killer who makes just enough money to support a steady diet of booze, drugs, and sarcasm while carrying out hits for the mob. And after one of these hits goes wrong, his life is forever changed by a tiny, relentlessly positive, imaginary blue-winged horse. Meloni will also executive produce the pilot, along with Morrison and Brian Taylor, who worked on Crank and Gamer. He will write and executive produce. Uh, Morrison will, and Taylor will also direct. So this is pretty cool to
Yeah,
see.
did you get to read the miniseries at all?
I didn't.
It's a fun. I mean, it was a 4-issue series from Image. It came out a couple years ago. It's a Christmas story because the guy is going around dressed up as Santa Claus and talking to this, what we all assume is a hallucination in his brain of this little blue winged horse that's trying to lead him around, trying to rescue this little girl. It's fantastic. And now, so this is Grant Morrison, who we know is very good at the weird and was kind of breaking away, doing something that was creator owned through Image with Derek Robertson, which I know you probably can't see it, but right behind me back there is a piece of original art that I had done by Derek a few years ago of Kitty Pryde and Dick Grayson, because they're my favorite characters. Excellent artist, great guy, really fun guy, has done some incredible comics, has worked on Transmetropolitan, which is a stellar series, and then did a bunch of work with Garth Ennis on The Boys, co-creator of that. So I mean, he's got just an amazing art style that works for the gritty realism that's still got a huge case of weird to it, that is perfect for this kind of thing. And to see their vision come out, I could not think of a better person to play the part than Chris Meloni, because Chris Meloni gets it. He can do serious things with his Law and Order stuff, definitely, but he can do weird. He can do funny. He can traverse a lot of different styles and characters, and that's exactly what this story needs.
Keep in mind, he played the cook in Wet Hot American Summer.
Yes.
Which, and here, let's just give you guys a overview on Chris Meloni's schedule. He's got the WGN show Underground, in which he will direct an episode of the show's second season, which is in production. He will also be starring in, or returning in, the second season of Netflix's Wet Hot American Summer. And in the film world, he will star opposite Amy Schumer and Goldie Hawn in the untitled mother-daughter comedy that is due in May.
I think it's actually been titled now.
Has it?
I think that's,
okay.
Yeah, I saw an actual trailer for it the other day, and it's been all over the front of IMDb, but I can't remember what it's called now.
Yeah. This article was from about a month ago now, but sort of besides the point, because
Snatched.
Okay.
Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, dude's busy, and it's great. It's great that these really good actors are keeping themselves busy doing things that I'm pretty sure he loves. He probably loved the book Happy, or at least when he got the script, he dove into the material and was like, all right, sign me up. All right, our next story is one that it sounds almost like I should be telling you this on April 1st. The How I Met Your Mother spinoff is in development from the This Is Us writers. This is another potential spinoff for How I Met Your Mother. It is in development at 20th TV from the This Is Us writers, Isaac Aptiker and Elizabeth Berger. The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed. The ensemble show is told from the female point of view, in contrast to the original CBS series that ran for nine seasons. This will take How I Met Your Father is a new take on it, with an entirely new set of characters and writers. It's similar in vein to the original. The original series creators, Carter Bays and Craig Thomas, would serve as executive producers on the project, but it would be I would almost say it'd be more consulting producers as opposed to having a lot of say, just because of their overall, they have a deal with Sony Studios which prevents them from working fully on this show.
Right. Well, also, let's keep in mind, Bays and Thomas tried to do the follow-up to How I Met Your Mother with How I Met Your Dad just after the original series ended. It had Meg Ryan was doing the voiceover stuff, doing the Bob Saget kind of part, and Greta Gerwig was playing the wife who was going to eventually meet the dad, and that thing got shot to pilot and didn't get picked up. And it was very surprising because How I Met Your Mother was a huge hit for CBS. As much as I will never want to really sit through that show again because it just hit the bullshit button about halfway and just kept spiking me in the fucking face with it. But that's kind of the thing. So part of me is, who the fuck wants to see this now? Who the fuck is sitting there saying, oh, what we really need to do is bring back the polar opposite of How I Met Your Mother? On the other hand, it's at least different creators doing their take on it. And I've got to say, I loved How I Met Your Mother for a while, for a good long while. And then I tolerated it for a while. And then I just got to the point where this is bullshit. And I remember saying that on one of the old incarnations of this show. And I'm just going, I'm fucking out. And Glenn Rubenstein, who you should not tell, is like, but don't you want to just see it finish out? Like, they've only got 2 seasons left. Can't you just stick it around to then? I'm like, no, fuck them, fuck the show, fuck the whole party. Just threw down my fucking pen and like, yeah, I'm out of here. And it's just like, I have no love for this concept anymore because they kind of killed it for me. And I wonder why they're still trying so hard to bring this concept around again. And it's just every time I talk about this, I feel like I'm on a repeat record, but I have to stand with it, is that there's just a serious lack of feeling of, we have to find new ideas in Hollywood. It's just, let's recycle this as quick as we can. We've got people's attention. Let's just bust it out and fucking, here's something that's familiar. Let's keep digging around with it because people might watch because they have an expectation. And I find that so dull. So when we're getting a show like Happy, which is based off of a new creation, which is based off of new creators who are doing original things, I'm ecstatic for stuff like that. And then I see this shit where it's like, we had the sitcom that lasted way too long and felt long in the tooth because it was forced, because it just had to keep continuing because we got to keep cashing checks, motherfuckers. And now it's like, let's try the same formula again. That really pisses me off.
I could see this working in a way. Now, will it last? Could it last as long as How I Met Your Mother did? Possibly, but I could see this working in a special way, and that being the in what How I Met Your Mother did, where it was a well-balanced cast of, you had 2 well-known actors in Neil Patrick Harris and Allison Hannigan. You had Jason Segel, who if you'd watched Freaks and Geeks, you knew him, but more than likely you didn't really know him. And then you had the virtually unknowns in Josh Radnor and Colby Smulders. And this show launched their career, so I could see them doing the same thing.
Absolutely terrific casting. Absolutely terrific chemistry between them. You know, I don't have a problem with the cast. I have a problem with the idea of the concept of this whole build-up bullshit of like, you know, we're gonna just string you along as long as they'll keep renewing us to when we finally decide to tell you who the dad is. Now maybe they don't do it this way, but I don't even want to go on that journey again. It's one thing to say we're going to have a spinoff of the show, or we're going to have something that's a spiritual successor to a show. But you know what? When fucking they did Frasier after Cheers, they didn't have Frasier sitting in a bar all the fucking time, talking to a bunch of people, you know, chanting around a fucking failed baseball player again. They did something different with the character. You can spin off characters, you can spin off ideas, but just to do the same thing over again and just change the gender, you know who does that? The fucker who wrote Twilight. The fucker who wrote Twilight said, hey, I'm going to do the same book over again, but I'm going to change the genders of it. You know what? Fuck that bitch. Fuck anybody who does that, because that's not exciting. That's not interesting. It's just the same shit again, and I don't fucking want it. I think you can do better. I think you should do better. And I feel kind of bad for the people who are doing a very original show, and This Is Us, saying, okay, now this is our next project. It's a dumb project.
Yeah.
Or it could be great, because I'm full of shit. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Who knows? I do like the idea of telling it from not the same story, because we don't need to see slap bet. We don't need to see, sandcastles in the sand or stuff like that, because it hasn't been long enough to reach nostalgia factor. I mean, the show ended 2 years ago, for crying out loud. So I mean, it's not, like Full House or like The Honeymooners doing, a sitcom, like redoing a sitcom like that. But I do think that there's some stories that they could tell from the female perspective in here that would be, more interesting.
I love the idea of a female-led show that follows some similar themes and stuff. But again, you're just trying to bank on the idea of it. People like that show, so let's do that show again. And that's a shitty way to do television. You know what? The guy who created a lot of incredible shows in the 70s and 80s, they're talking about relaunching All in the Family and The Jeffersons and those shows, and they're talking about redoing them with new cast working from the same scripts. Who the fuck wants that?
Yeah.
Who the fuck wants to be in that? Oh yeah, I want to go on and try to play Archie Bunker after the guy who made that fucking show and is an amazing actor. I'm going to go on and just try to emulate him. They did a show called The Rerun Show in the early aughts, and it was like, hey, we're going to do Different Stroke scripts, and we're going to do Facts of Life scripts, and we're going to do all these things and stuff like that. And they did it as a really raunchy, filthy spoof, but they worked from the original scripts. That's the only way that is mildly interesting. But to just sit there and just keep hammering down on the same thing over and over again and being too chicken shit to come up with a new concept and bring new things to television, it's a new fucking world. It's a very different world to steal from another spin-off show that wasn't the same as the original. Also lacked a rapist. But it's just a very different fucking place right now. It seems like that would be inspiring. We would get new shit. That's why we get shows like Mr. Robot. That's why we get shit that actually makes us think and go outside of what we already have. On the other hand, one of my favorite shows, or two of my favorite shows of last year, have been remakes or spin-offs of other things. So, like I said, I'm a fucking asshole. Just shove it right up my ass, TV. Just take me like you fucking owe me, and like you just shoved a Jell-O pop in my mouth, because I'm a little bitch in your arms.
Yeah, and you could say in a way that This Is Us is basically the Parenthood replacement. I mean, that argument could be said where you're following around one family. Granted, Parenthood, it was like, this year, 1 year, not going back to when the dad was still alive and then forward to the kids at the age of like 35, 40, however old the kids are now, sort of deal. But you couldn't make that comparison.
Yeah, This Is Us is a generational show that takes place at different time points. I think that's new. That's interesting. And they didn't call it Parenthood : This Is Us / fuck you and watch it, you stupid chimps. They could have. Right. But they didn't. They actually put their money where their fucking mouth is and said,
Yeah.
here's a show that we made, and we hope that you think it's as good as we have tried to make for you. And that's why people like it, I think.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'm one of them peoples. All right, well, that is it for the news, and we will be right back.